What's up, guys? Jordan McAbee here, fantasyracingonline.com, and it's strategy week. We're back at Talladega. Good old super speedway racing when it comes to DraftKings and DFS. It's the week that you can pick anybody, really. I mean, there's definitely strategy when it comes to building lineups for these types of races, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter who you pick because it's most of this race is going to be about luck and avoiding the wrecks. And, with this being the last super speedway race in this car, there's a lot of people that think that drivers are going to be even more aggressive. With this being a playoff race, drivers could even get more aggressive to get the win and to finish up front. So we could see a ton of wrecks. We always see at least one big one. And the old adage of stack the back always comes into play here. Now, I don't particularly like stack the back in a literal sense because so many people say it and then just play all shit boxes. And yes, that can work out and you can win money with that. But I don't want to just double my money. I want to try and take down a tournament. So stacking the back with the shit boxes isn't the strategy that's going to get that done. So taking a look here, I put together the three top 10 scores in the three super speedway races this year. I put together the top 10 DraftKings scores in those races so we can kind of take a look at how the lineup came together, where drivers started and everything. Now, I don't think anybody actually put these lineups together in contests. If they did, congratulations to you. That's amazing. But as you can see here, Daytona 500 total salary used was $47,600. Talladega 1, $47,000, and Daytona 2, where things just got wild, $36,800. You don't want to use all of your salary cap this week. As much as that's typically the mindset that we want to take most weeks playing NASCAR DFS, this isn't the week to do it. As far as I'm concerned, when I'm building a lineup, I'm not even caring about how much a driver is or even who they are. I care about where they start. So look at these starting positions of the optimal lineups. Let's take a look at Daytona 500. Hamlin, who finished 5th, he started 25th. Chastain started 34th. McDowell 17th. Austin Cindric 39th. Chase Elliott 12th. And Cole Custer 27th. Talladega 1. Kaz Grala started 38th. McDowell started 23rd. Kevin Harvick 16th. Brad Keselowski 10th. Matt DiBenedetto 13th. Anthony Alfredo 30th. So far, there's two 30th place starters in both optimal lineups, or 30th or worse starters. Second Daytona race, we got Newman starting 23rd, Bubba Wallace starting 20th, Ryan Preece starting 24th, Justin Haley 28th, Josh Bilicki 36th, and Chris Buescher 13th. There we have one starter in 30th or worse. Now, I went ahead and averaged these. That's what these numbers are here. So the average starting position for Daytona 2 optimal lineup was 24th. Average starting position for Talladega 1 was 21.7, which I think was a little more I would say an expected race at Talladega. We didn't have a ton of people crash out of that race, if I remember right. I'm going to make sure before I sound like an idiot here. So we had Keselowski win it. Byron finished 2nd. McDowell 3rd. Harvick 4th. DiBenedetto 5th. Grala 6th. Reddick 7th. Austin Dillon 8th. Ryan Blaney 9th. Cole Custer 10th. So a lot of big name and expected drivers up toward the front. Larson finished dead last. Logano was second last. Bowman was back there. Hauf, Bilicki, Kurt Busch, Gase, Stenhouse, Hamlin, Truex, Haley, Hill, Ware. I'm going from worst finishers up. So I would say this wasn't too crazy of a Talladega race, and that's probably why, the starting position kind of crept a little bit further up there. And then the average in the Daytona 500 was 25.7. Again, so I think, this week it's like I said, it's all about starting position, and it's all about getting lucky and hoping that your guys finish up front. Because even looking down here to the four so these are the top 10 scores from each race. The four after the optimal 6. BJ McLeod started 30th. Ryan Blaney, he won the race, started 6th. Tyler Reddick started 17th. Alex Bowman started 15th. That's Daytona 2. Talladega 1. Cole Custer started 27th. Tyler Reddick started 20th. Chase Briscoe started 25th. William Byron started 4th. So there's another high starter, but that's only 2 so far. Jamie McMurray started 19th in the Daytona 500 and was the 7th highest scorer. Kevin Harvick started 8th. Ryan Preece started 11th, and Corey LaJoie started 16th. All of those guys finished top 10. There is one top 5 starter among these top 30 from these 3 races, and there's only 3 top 10 starters. Statistically, what we've seen in the past is the top 10 starters are going to get a higher percentage ownership than they should. And as far as I'm concerned, I honestly, at maximum, I'm putting 1 top 10 starter in a lineup, but most of the time I'm going to stay completely away from the top 10. I talked about this in my previous video for Slingshot. Same exact mindset here. You're going for place differential. Yes, it is possible that a top 10 starter, that a top 5 starter gets in the optimal. It is possible that someone wins a tournament with a top 10 starter. But the percentage ownership that those drivers will get on race day does not justify the chances of them actually getting into the optimal lineup. Denny Hamlin, who's on the pole, is probably going to get like 25% ownership on Sunday. Do you know what all has to go perfectly right for Denny Hamlin to get in the optimal lineup on Sunday? He has to win the race. He has to lead a ton of laps. He has to get fast laps. Is it possible? Yes, we've seen it before. Is it probable? Absolutely not. Is it worth 25% ownership? Absolutely not. If I'm putting in 150 lineups, I have Hamlin at 5% or lower. And probably, honestly, I'm probably fading him completely. Because that's just how important starting position is at these tracks. There is no reason to really spend a lot of time going on top 10, focusing on especially the high starters, but even top 10 starters. By the way, I missed Keselowski right here. So there's four top 10 starters in the top 30 scorers over these 3 races. Only one of them made it into the optimal, and it was Keselowski, who started 10th and won the race, and he still wasn't the highest scoring driver in that race. It just gives you any idea of how important these starting positions are. So I think everyone knows that starting positions are important, but at the same time, ownerships never reflect that people understand this. So I'm going to talk about this every time we have Daytona and Talladega because people still don't get it. When people say there's no edge in NASCAR or DFS anymore, you just have to point to a Daytona or Talladega race. There's still massive edge for smart players that understand how the scoring works. And is it going to work out every single time? And where you go against, go heavier on a guy that's going to be lower owned or that's probably going to be lower owned that you think is going to be lower owned. It's not going to work out every time, but in the long run, it's going to work out because of how unpredictable these races are. There's many positions that you can have leverage simply by pivoting off of a very popular pick onto a less popular pick with the exact same upside. Like a guy starting 27th and 28th. I'm just using these numbers as examples. This isn't an actual thing, but could have like a 15 to 20% different in ownership with the exact same upside. Yes, there are drivers that do better at Daytona and Talladega that drive better, but these races are nowhere near guaranteed. They're nowhere near predictable. So why would you not try to flip the script there and gain leverage on the exact same upside for these drivers? A wreck can take out anybody. It doesn't matter how good of a driver you are at this track. Yes, if this thing goes green, probably the better super speedway racers are going to finish up toward the front Do I expect this race to go green? Absolutely not. It's just not super common. Looking at, for example, I have the ownerships pulled up on this screen that you can't see right now, but so looking at, I always pull up Anthony Alfredo because people still don't understand that Anthony Alfredo is a good pick. He was 13.85% owned in the Daytona 500 and he started 36th. He was 5% owned in the first Talladega race starting 30th. The driver in a teammate to the car that won the Daytona 500 was 5% owned starting 30th last time here. And then at Daytona 2, Alfredo went up to his highest amount of ownership at 11.82%, starting 32nd. That's just an example, and I think it's very easy, or it's relatively easy to try to kind of predict ownerships this week because of how, like, just looking at historical ownerships and then how the driver has done on super speedway races this year, because that's all people look at. Anthony Alfredo finished, you can see right here, Anthony Alfredo finished 12th in the first Talladega race at 5% ownership. He gets bumped up to 12% ownership, or he gets a bump up to 12% ownership in the next one. It's because people saw that he finished 12th and, hey, he was in the optimal. I'm going to pick him because he starts 32nd. Whereas it should be, I'm going to pick him because he starts 32nd and he has a pretty good car. That should be the focus here. Anthony Alfredo is not a awful driver and he's in a good car. There's no reason not to pick Anthony Alfredo this week, and he's probably going to be the guy that I'm heaviest on just because trends have shown that people aren't going to pick him. If he's above 20%, I'll be absolutely shocked. But even if he's above 15, I'll be surprised. Another guy that doesn't get a ton of ownership is Cole Custer. Daytona 500, he started 27th. He was at 15%. He was at 15% in Talladega 1, starting 27th. He was 16% at Daytona 2, starting 25th. It's a Stewart-Haas car. He can get up there. Look at this. He was the 7th highest scorer at Talladega 1. He was in the optimal in the Daytona 500. Cole Custer can get there. There's no reason that him starting this week, Cole Custer starts 28th this week. There's no reason not to be 35% plus on Cole Custer, in my opinion. Same with Anthony Alfredo. And if you can be triple or at least double the field in that ownership, that's awesome leverage to have. It is crazy. And then, it allows you to either, when building a lineup, you can then pivot off of other chalky plays, or you can go chalk the rest of the way, and you're not screwed if Ryan Preece finishes 5th, because you also have Ryan Preece, but you have Cole Custer who finishes 10th and Alfredo who finishes 12th. Whereas other people in your contest don't. So definitely, in big tournaments, it's worth going back and looking at ownerships previously, because you end up seeing trends, and it makes it quite predictable. Definitely go back and look at that if you can. If you have the CSV files, go back and look at that, and it's definitely worth it. I believe so. And if not, you can check out my projections for this race and ownerships in my DraftKings article. I'm not guaranteeing that they're going to be super accurate, but at the same time, they're going to give you a base to start with. That's all I can go with. But anyway, starting the lineup, we got Denny Hamlin on the pole. We got all the playoff drivers starting in the top 12. Like I said, I don't like playing anyone really in the top 10. Maybe Joey, maybe getting down here. Keselowski, Logano, Harvick, Byron. By the way, this video is going to be a little different because there's no point in going back and looking at stats. This is all about strategy when it comes to building lineups. Past statistics don't matter at Daytona and Talladega. Like I said, yes, there are better superspeedway drivers, but it's nowhere near guaranteed that they're going to finish well. If anything, past history should, if you can combine that with, if you think a driver is going to be super high owned and he has good history, and you think people are picking him based off of really good history, someone, maybe it's like Logano, maybe he's going to be quite high owned. It just gives you a reason to get off of him because history means nothing. And again, you just have to look for those times that you can get leverage on the field, and then throw your lineups in and hope for the best because that's all we can do. That's all we can do in this race. But the guys starting in the back that are going to get a ton of ownership, Landon Castle, he's in the 96 car this week. Competitive car, should be able to at least compete top 20 legitimately. If there's if there's wrecks, he can get up there into the top 15, top 10. Justin Haley is in the 16 Colleague car this weekend, which Kaz Grala has ran the first 3 races on super speedways in this car. He was quite competitive in the Daytona 500. He actually got up there and led for a bit. Ended up with that. I think he ended up on fire, if I remember right. Finished 36th. At Talladega, he finished 6th, so obviously a great play. And Daytona 2, he finished 28th. But, Justin Haley starting 38th. He is a very good super speedway racer. He's going to get high ownership this week, being in that 16 car, being a good super speedway racer. So it's a choice you have to make. If you project him to be 40%, maybe you want to go a little bit underweight. That's what I would do. Or, I don't think there's a reason to be overweight on Haley. As far as that, the Justin Allgaier is going to be in the 77 Spire car that Justin Haley's usually driving. That is a decent car. The Spire cars aren't bad this year. Allgaier should get just starting 30-30 is going to get ownership. I'm checking my projected ownership right now for him. Just a second. So I got Haley at 38% and Castle at 30% and Allgaier at 28%. So definitely think those guys are going to get a good share of the ownership this week. And then, you have to think how most people build lineups and kind of think how other people are going to do it. If they hit Castle starting 40th, if they hit Haley starting 38th, and they throw Allgaier in there as well in 3, unless they're like legitimately doing a stack to back, they're then going to come and hit guys probably in the teens and the high 20s because they're not going to want to fully stack the back. It just goes against normal thinking. So that gives you the opportunity, I think, to come in here in this area in the Ryan Newman, the Eric Jones, Ryan Preece, Cole Custer area, maybe even Corey LaJoie, and be overweight, and definitely Anthony Alfredo. Because, as we've seen this year, the 20s is kind of the honey hole, as well as, the mid-teens. 23rd, 30th, 38th, 16th, 13th, 25th, 27th, couple of teens, 12th, 17th, 23rd, 20th, 24th, 28th. Right here was Daytona 2 was definitely a mid-20s honey hole, but yeah, that's just how this race goes. These races go. I think there's a lot of opportunity to be different without being too different, if that makes sense. Like I said, you come here. I think DraftKings did a pretty good job with pricing this week, but they're stacking these guys 29th, 28th, 27th, 26th in order. And here's an example: Landon Castle starting 40th, Chris Buescher starting 25th, Ryan Newman starting 24th, Newman starting 25th. If you want to be different, people seeing this range right here are going to see 24th, 25th, 24th. Why do I keep getting those confused? Wow. 25th, 24th, 40th, 16th, 18th. They're going to see those 5 right there. And let's say this is the final spot in their lineup. The brain's going to gravitate toward Landon Castle because he starts 40th. And everyone says it's all about place differential. Well, he starts 15 spots worse than everybody else. It's a great pick. Pivot. Newman's also a great pick. Buscher's also a great pick. They both start mid-20s. Austin Dillon is a decent pick. Suarez can be a decent pick. LaJoy is a good pick. Custer's a good pick. There's opportunities like this several times throughout. Right here. Justin Haley, 38th. Eric Almirola, 20th. Justin Allgaier, 33rd. I'll pivot to Almirola all day. And maybe not even pivot off, but combine. These are the opportunities I'm talking about. Even Ross Chastain here, 23rd. There's a lot you can do this week when it comes to strategy of building a lineup. And like I said, it does not matter who you're actually picking. Try not to think about that. If anything, use it to your advantage. And think about how many people pick Kyle Larson this week because he's $8,400 and he's 5th. Hey, he doesn't start in the first 2 rows. It's Kyle Larson. I'm getting Kyle Larson at $8,400. Still not a good pick. 1, Kyle Larson sucks at super speedways. 2, he starts 5th. Same with Martin Truex Jr. Starts 6th, $7,600. Hey, I'm getting Truex, $7,600. Denny Hamlin, great super speedway racer, probably the best. As much as I hate to say it, Denny Hamlin's probably the best super speedway racer. I wouldn't even think about writing Denny Hamlin up as a tournament play this week. I know other touts do. 0. No way. Never play anyone on the pole at Daytona and Talladega. Especially when it's Denny Hamlin and he's going to get over 20% ownership. Like, as far as I'm concerned, you can, like, if there's one wreck and it takes out Hamlin, it's taking out 20% of lineups if you don't have any of them. It's just such a huge edge right there. I can't stress this enough. Just don't be dumb. Just don't be dumb this week. Don't be dumb and get lucky. That's the name of the game when it comes to Talladega. Just hope your drivers make it through, because these wrecks are going to be wild. But we'll take a look. I'll throw out my algorithm predicted finishing order real quick. Like I said, this doesn't matter. Like, this is just basically ranking the best drivers if a race were to go green and not have a ton of wrecks. So, predicting Hamlin to win, Blaney 2nd, Chase Elliott 3rd, Kevin Harvick 4th, Keselowski 5th. Those guys all start up front. Harvick starts 9th. So like I said, in the like 7, 8, 9, that's when I might start picking one guy. Definitely wouldn't go 2 in that range, even though they're playoff drivers. Like, I know the narrative, but what you're hoping for when you pick a guy starting 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th, you need him to win. To get in the optimal lineup, you need him to win. Joey Logano's won here before. Keselowski's won here several times before. Harvick's been good on the super speedways this year. He finished 16th, 4th, and 4th. Yeah. As far as I'm concerned, definitely hitting this area back here. I'd probably put the cutoff. I mean, you can't even put a cutoff here. 20th or worse has been my staple for Slingshot, and I'm going to use the same thing here, even though I do like Bubba Wallace here at 19th as a tournament play. But 20th or worse, I think you're looking good, and maybe throw in 1 or 2 drivers starting higher than that. But as far as optimal builds, like, we see it time and time again, how the optimal turns out. It's not by picking these guys up front. It just doesn't work out because so much has to go right for them to make the optimal. Whereas, Cole Custer moving up to 18th, that's 10 place differential points right there. So if Hamlin goes from 1st to 8th, that's -7 plus the finish points. Like, I don't have the calculator off the top or right next to me, but Cole Custer's the better play, even if he finishes, mid-teens most of the time. It's yeah. Another thing to consider this week is the shit boxes. We don't necessarily see them in the optimal too often. You look at these top 10 scorers. McMurray was in the 77 for this race, for the Daytona 500. Kaz Gralla was in the 16. I wouldn't call these shit boxes, is my point. No shit box here. And the shit boxes that made it, like I said, Daytona 2 got wild at the end. Bilicki finishing 10th and BJ McLeod finishing 11th and BJ McLeod finishing 10th. Probably not going to happen again. It's probably not. Unless some crazy shit happens again, which is certainly possible. But with that being said, I think it's worth being overexposed on those guys because, if you listen to Stacking Denny's, the podcast this week, Brandon and I talked about how low of ownership these shit boxes get. And it's not justified because the thing with the shit boxes is they hang out at the back. And sometimes they get lapped. And that's not good if the big wreck happens with one lap to go. But if the big wreck happens midway through the field and they're just out there riding by themselves. Now, unless Cody Ware gets mad and takes someone out or they wreck each other, which we've seen before. But if that doesn't happen and there's a big wreck, it is much more likely that the shit boxes get through it when they're running out there by themselves because they're not going to be involved in it and they're going to have time to react. And if they get through it, that's just more positions that they move up. These shit boxes are not good enough to stay with, most of them aren't good enough to stay with the pack, and they don't want to. But if they can survive, it's just more points, not to mention they're very safe picks. And with shit boxes, I'm talking Quinn Houff, Josh Bilicki, BJ McLeod, Joey Gase, Cody Ware, Garrett Smithley, even David Starr, as much as I hate to say it. David Starr's car is pretty junk, though. But starting 39th, he cannot score negative points. And that's huge because everyone else in the field can, except for Landon Castle. And I don't know. I should probably have scoring memorized, shouldn't I? So Landon Castle cannot score negative. David Starr can score 0. And then if who starts 38th? Is that Haley? Yeah, if Justin Haley finishes 40th, dead last, he scores -1 point. Whereas if Hamlin finishes dead last, and you don't take any dominator points into account here, you're looking at -38 points. So this is simple math, guys. You're building lineups for place differential, and you're hoping that they just make it through, and hopefully they finish top 15. Because you can see here, everyone in the optimal finishes top 15. Most of them finished top 12. Cindric did get in the optimal here at Daytona 500, finishing 15th because he started 39th. But yeah, that's really all I got. It's honestly, when I make lineups for Daytona and Talladega, this is what I do. I don't look at my projections. I don't look at my algorithm predicted finishing order. I take my projected ownership. I take the starting position, and I have 3 columns in an Excel spreadsheet. I put the driver's name, I put my projected ownership, and I put the starting position. I sort these 3 columns by starting position from worst to best. I then enter, I'm making lineups manually here. I then enter the lineups that I put in. Calculate my ownership compared to my projected ownership. I go heavier on the drivers that I want to go heavier on, such as Anthony Alfredo, Cole Custer, maybe Ross Chastain. I'm just looking at names on the screen right now. And I go underweight or even with the guys that I think that I want to. And it could be just a freaking coin flip of who that is. But the reason I sort by worst starting position to best is because I make sure that I keep most of my lineups back in starting position, like in the worst starting positions that have the most place differential upside. And then I'll definitely be underweight on the drivers starting top 10. Most of the drivers starting 11th through 20th. And then they're 20th on back is where I'm getting overweight. And then it just comes down to the race starts and good luck. Can't stress this enough. I'm rarely even looking at past statistics. If you read my articles this week, you'll hear me mention a few statistics, and we can go through some here in a second. I do that just to have some sort of content, because I can't just sit there my brain won't let me sit there in an article and say, this guy's a good pick because he starts 38th. This guy's a good pick because he starts 30th. So I throw those stats out just to have filler and to kind of justify it, to make sure like I'm not a complete idiot. Like, this guy's finished well here before. That's really the only reason. The only other time that I look at finishings or like results at super speedways is when I'm maybe picking between two drivers. And I take that back. If I'm picking between two drivers, I might select the guy that does better. But it goes back to my point before. If someone does really well, Eric Almirola has a great history here. If he was starting 25th, his ownership would be through the roof because of his history here at Talladega. Using an example like that, it can guide you to what the chalk is going to be. If you come across a driver and you're doing research, and let's say, well, we can do it right now, actually. Let's see if I can find a great example here. Actually, one example is Denny Hamlin. Very good super speedway racer, is going to get a ton of ownership this week. It points you to what the chalk's going to be, even though he's starting first, and it makes no sense for him to be that high owned. Because there's a lot of people that just do really basic research and they think that this race is a typical race. And yeah, place differential matters, and they know that, but at the same time, they're going to go do research and be like, Anthony Alfredo is a better pick than, or Ryan Preece is a better pick than, that's a bad example. Let me find a very good example here so I'm not just throwing shit out. Ryan Blaney is a better pick than, Ryan Blaney is a better pick than Justin Haley, because Ryan Blaney's average finish over the last 7 Talladega races is 10 spots higher than Justin Haley. Most weeks, an example like that would be true. This week, no. Ryan Blaney starting 4th. Justin Haley starting 38th. Justin Haley is significantly better pick in DraftKings. Can't hammer that home enough. Place differential, finishing position, optimal lineup build. I'm probably looking at something like this. And this is what I'm going to try to stick to for most of my lineups. Probably going to do, you need at least one guy starting in the 30s, if not two. Whether that be Justin Haley, Justin Allgaier, Landon Castle, Anthony Alfredo, or a shitbox. 1, maybe 2, maybe even 3. You know, if Almirola or if Alfredo gets up there, it could be 3, you know, ownership-wise. But just remember, Justin Haley, Justin Allgaier, and Landon Castle are going to get significant ownerships, especially Justin Haley and Landon Castle. I would go, so you're going definitely 1 in the 30s, probably 2, maybe 3. I would do 2 or 3 in the 20s or high teens to 20s, and then 1 in the mid-teens or higher up, just 1. That would be my optimal build. So, for example, just that might be a little confusing, but so let's say, so I'm going to do 1 in the mid-teens. So let's do Austin Dillon, okay? Let's throw Ryan Newman in there. Let's throw Ryan Preece in there. Let's throw Anthony Alfredo in there. Give me Justin Haley. And so we got 1 mid-teen, we got 2 20s and 2 30s. And let's roll with Eric Almirola. That's the type of lineup build I would do. 16th, starting position 16th, 20th, 25th, 27th, 30th, and 38th. That's kind of where I'd go with it. If you don't like Almirola, I'd go Chastain. Or maybe I'll throw that in, another contest or something. But that's where I'd stick. You know, that's where I'd stick my kind of build is with that. You know, maybe you want to go up to, you want to go a little bit higher than Austin Dillon. Where's isn't why can't I find this? Tyler Reddick. Maybe you want to go like Tyler Reddick. You know, you can see like all these lineups. There's a ton of salary left over. Don't forget that. Leave plenty of salary. Go place differential. Have fun with your lineups this week. This is the week to have fun with your lineups. I literally so a lot of times, actually every time with Daytona and Talladega, I'll have my player pool of drivers for DFS, and I'll print them out and cut them up and spread them on the floor and have my dog go up and he'll touch 6 of them, and I'll throw in that lineup. That's how much it doesn't matter who you pick here. I'll throw that lineup into a $180 contest. That's how much it doesn't matter. Have fun. Just be smart with how you build, and good luck. That's all you can do this week. So good luck. Hopefully the wrecks go your way on Sunday and you win some money. And remember, you know, this is what I consider an optimal build to try to take down a tournament. If you just want to try to win some money, you know, just go pure place differential. Go guys outside of the top 20 on all of them and hope 4 of them hit, and you'll be good. You know, hit Custer, LaJoy, Haley, Alfredo, Castle, and Allgaier. Like, you know, just do that, run with it, and good luck. That's all you can do. So, see you next week for Charlotte Roval. We'll get a little bit more into the stat. Wait, speaking of stats, I think I've tried to end this thing like 5 times by now. If you are curious about Superspeedway stats this year, I did go ahead and put them together. Best average finish in the 3 Superspeedway races this year is Kevin Harvick at 8.0. Jamie McMurray only had 1 start in the Daytona 500. He finished 8th, so 8.0. Got Ryan Preece at 8.3, Austin Dillon at 9.7, Chase Elliott at 11.7. One thing that I like to look at is this right here. Percent of laps ran inside the top 15. And this is taking into account only the laps that the drivers ran. So Joey Logano only ran 422 laps because he wrecked out of, I think, Talladega or something like that. What's crazy here is Kyle Busch. Like if I'm gonna bet, I hate betting on Talladega too, but if I was gonna bet, I'd probably bet Kyle Busch because very solid average running position, percent laps in top 15. It tells me that he's been up front in these races, just definitely hasn't gotten the finishes. He's like at 16-1, so I would bet that he starts second. Wouldn't play him in DFS, but I'd probably bet that. Maybe play him in a fantasy league that doesn't take place differential into account. Same with Logano or Keselowski or Chase Elliott. You sort by average running position this year on the Superspeedway races. Kyle Busch, Austin Dillon, top 2. Got Cindric in there with only one race. Ryan Blaney, Christopher Bell, Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Joey Logano. And then another thing to consider, you're looking at numbers that you're probably not looking at other weeks. Total laps over those 3 races. Kevin Harvick, Chase Elliott, Ryan Preece, the 3 drivers that have finished all laps on Superspeedways this year. It's just something to consider. So makes me like Ryan Preece a little bit more if I think his ownership is going to be lower than it should be. Austin Dillon's right up there. Chastain, Custer, LaJoie. Again, signs are pointing to Custer as a very good play this weekend because I don't think he's going to get super high owned. Bubba Wallace is up there, 554. Hamlin, 553. Briscoe, 552. BJ McLeod, who's my favorite shitbox play this week, at 551. So yeah, I'll make sure you check out the article. I'm sure I'll add some decent other views or stats in there that I didn't include in this video. But again, good luck. That's all we can hope for on Sunday. Enjoy the race. If you're not feeling confident, don't play. There's plenty of weeks that Superspeedway races that I significantly decrease the amount that I bet, and I typically significantly decrease the amount that I play in DFS from a normal week, just because these races are so random. And it's going to the next week where I prefer predictable races, not this stuff. So if you play, good luck, and thanks for watching, and I'll see you next week for the Charlotte Roval.